Hello everyone, this is Sam Herzog again with another video. It's been a while, but just been busy. Um, but this video is gonna cover SD-WAN, right? It's gonna specifically Cisco SD-WAN, and this is gonna be um, for the Viptela, which are a think really great and successful, you know, Cisco developed technology, right? So they bought Viptela and they, you know, made it Cisco. You will see that the even the configuration scheme, the framework, and everything is the syntax may have changed, right? But the command line and the architectural and how structure the command scheme is totally Cisco. Okay, so um, we'll I'll start presenting this lab, and then in this video I'll just go quickly over um, how to upload the Viptela um, appliances. Um, if you have a CCO account, you can download them and use them in a trial testing for testing environment. Cisco Modeling Lab is a great tool to virtualize and instantiate a lab so you can practice and test this new technology, right? You can also, if you have EVNG, you can pretty much do the same thing. But I've been using Cisco Modeling Lab since 2018, and I love the product. I think it's great. It works really well with Cisco, right? Especially now this new version, and I currently have the 2.6, but the 2.7 offers a little more, so you can definitely do a lot of network automation, and I'll show you guys in another video how to do all this. But anyways, let's get started. So nodes that you're gonna need are the vManage, the vBond, the vSmart, right? The vBond, I would advise to create two different profile for node definition. I'll say it's the same appliance, but one will be used as a vBond, the other will be used as a vEdge. And then you can also use the Catalyst 8000 V, right? The Catalyst 8000 V also do offer they offer the ability to use to convert them into a a C edge. The C edge is the configuration scheme. The syntax is a little different from a V bond. Sorry, the C edge configuration is a little bit different from the V edge, but the framework is the same. Okay, so things to know, right? Um, Especially within Cisco Modeling Lab, this was a trial and error. When I uploaded these nodes, initially they provide you a resource allocation chart matrix, right? For vManage, it is said to use 16 gig, and I believe for CPU, the vBond is 2 gig and 2 CPU, right? For vManage also, you need 100 gig of storage, right? But and vSmart is about 4 gig and I think 2 CPU and 4 gig of memory RAM and about 4 gig of storage. But since I've ran into some weird behavior, some strange behavior, right, when I power on my lab, so there are some changes that I've made, right? So I've played with resources until I figure out that some of this weird behavior were due to a lack of resources. So this is what I found to work real well with Cisco Modeling Lab. Let me go under node definitions. So for the vManage, right, um, basically you're gonna have to run it as a router, right? Um, For image definition, well, we'll create it on a different tab, but I'll go quickly over the resources. And if you need if anyone wants the YAML file for that, I can provide you a copy of it. Just post a you know, a comment, and I'll respond to it, and I'll send you, or email me, and I'll send you this the YAML file for it. But anyways, memory, I'm using 32 gig. This is what I found working real well, right? 12 CPU, right, and 100 gig of data for disk size, right? And then the rest is can be provided through a YAML file, but or you can find through Cisco documentation. The other one is the vBond, right? The vBond, what I found to work real well is 4 gig of memory to CPU. I allocated 20 gig of disk size, so you don't have to. You can use 5 if you wanted to. I just did 20. Just, you know, it's preference, right? And then vSmart. Let me go click on the vSmart. The vSmart I allocated 8 gig. I ran into some weird behavior where the vSmart wasn't registering to the vManage. So this is although I had the PKI completed, and found that I had to increase resources, especially memory and then CPU, right? Same thing with the disk size. So the disk size is a little bit up to your choice, right? 5 gigs should be enough, but you definitely should, you know, give it about, for me, what worked for me was 8 gig of memory and 6 CPU. Okay, all right. And then vBond and vEdge are practically the same, right? Okay. Anyways, let's go back to the lab. Okay. So this lab basically provide us basically I've got 3 sites, right? I have a cloud environment where I have my controllers. I have vManage, vBond, and vSmart, right? I do have a CA. I could have used my domain controller as with its certificate authority services, but I've not done that, right? I would do another video on how to do that specifically, just to register the controllers to the vManage, at least vBond and vSmart, right? And work the PKI. I have a DNS server, also plays the role of an NTP. So it's an iOS box, right? Because of the root certificate. If you want a root certificate that works properly, you want to configure proper time to it, right? You have to have NTP, right? If you don't use NTP, you won't be able to download your certificate and serve them from or download them, install them into your boot flash to serve them to the device when they come in and request this root certificate, right? Because you want to automate that, right? You don't want to just do it. It shouldn't be a manual process, because once you turn it into a manual process, then now you have issues, right? You have issues where you have to, you know, it doesn't scale well. Anyways, so now let's look into the vManage, right? The vManage is pretty straightforward, right? In this lab, I've configured my device to connect or register to the vManage, and I can show you guys that in a second. But one of the things that I wanted to show you about services, right? When you don't have proper resources, right? So it's request NMS all status, right? This provides you all the services that need to be ran in order to have access to the UI, right? A lot of these services are important. If they don't run, then you want to have access to the UI. And I found that very frustrating, because I had to adjust the CPUs and memory, how much resources I would allocate to the vManage to properly render the web UI. Okay, the vManage is basically your it's the controller. It's a controller. You'll have it manages all your device, all your your SD-WAN configuration, your SD-WAN, your fabric configuration. So you have a bunch of templates that can be built, and this helps standardize your network configuration. Um, it is great because you can have a bunch of feature templates, and I'll show you guys how to make those eventually, right? And these feature templates will be snippets of the configuration. It's very modular, which makes this even better, right? And then at the end you can compound all these feature template into one configuration, right? In this configuration, right, this is for a C-Edge configuration, right? A V-Edge cloud, because you can select which model you can use. And then I have 16 feature templates that were allocated to this um, device template, right? The feature templates, like I say, are modular. They're blocks of configuration that you aggregate into, and let me show you guys. It's much easier. So, and then again, I'll come back and circle back and show you guys how to do this. But you can see here for system configuration, right? I have different feature templates. Each of these ones are feature templates. I have my AAA. This is OMP. This is how when you start studying and working the SD-WAN, right? Cisco SD-WAN. There two. There is a control plane and a data plane, right? You have to understand that there's two. Each of these two planes have functions, right? The control plane is how the vSmart is able to exchange routes. So you can, if you're familiar with MPLS, or I would say BGP, right? Not MPLS but BGP, multiple protocol BGP. vSmart are similar to a route reflector, and they act as such to where you're using DTLS to exchange control plane. Control plane messages which contain routing updates and policy updates and so forth, right? Um, the vManage will push. So this is just the vSmart. That's the job of the vSmart. The vManage will have configuration templates that may be pushed to, provision, bring onboarding new C edges that have registered to the vManage with the proper certificates came, and that expedites some of the process. You can centralize most of your processes. So again, this is a bunch of you have what's beautiful about software-defined networking, especially SD-WAN. You have multiple VPNs, right? 0 to 512, and VPN 0 is generally default VLAN. Tenant for OMP. This is for control plane purposes. You got to remember 512 is for your management plane, right? This is out of band management, and that's in that way you can make your fabric redundant, right? Um, can you manage it through the VPN 0, right? Just the data plane? Yes, you can, but using a tenant for it's much more secure, right? Um, and then obviously you can create multiple service VPN, and each service VPN can be allocated to a type of traffic. This could be users, this could be printers, this could be VoIP, this could be maybe services within your data centers, right? This is segmentation, right? And then we'll talk about it later on. But let's go back to PKI and certificate generation, right? So under settings, this is generally how you start, right? Under controller certificate authorization, right? You can come over here and select which framework you want to use, and I picked enterprise root certificate because I want to run my own. I want to centralize my certificate authority, right? It's going to be control within my domain, right? So this is the root certificate. This is where you plug in your root certificate, right? And then from here you can generate a CSR, right? So it's one page where you and then some of this information is critical. For example, your organization name. I initially when you provision the vmanage, and actually every controllers, right? You have to enter within the CLI the system configuration, and within the system configuration you have things like your system ID, your system IP, your site ID, your you know vbond, right? The vbond IP, because you have to register to the vbond before you the vbond has to authorize you to join the fabric, right? The vbond is the validator, is your gatekeeper, right? That's how you join the fabric, right? But you have to re-enter that information again, right? I don't know. I've I don't know why. I have to do maybe some more investigative work on this, right? But you do have to re-enter the information, right? And then I think that's about it, right? So the organization name, vbond, and then you have to work the certificate scheme, right? You have to start working on your trust, and you can issue a certificate, a CSR, and once you issue the CSR, right? Once you finish completing it, you can import. You can click import and save. Then under your, I think it's under configuration, right? Configuration and certificates. You can come over here and then under controllers, right? You have your WAN devices, that will be your edges. Obviously, when you first register them, you'll see him on their WAN edge list, right? This tab, but you have the controllers tab. That's pretty much where you go in order to work your three orchestrators, the vbond, your three controllers. The vbond is your orchestrator, your vsmart and vmanage, right? Under here, you can view a CSR. You copy the CSR, right? And this is, once you copy it, you go onto your certificate authority and you sign it. Once you sign it, you install it, right? Okay, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Okay, so going back. So in this lab, what we'll do is I'll probably will restart this lab. I'll wipe it just to start, showing you how to onboard the vSmart, the vBond to the vManage, right? And then how to onboard the vEdges, right? So in this case here, we have a configuration where I have a cloud infrastructure, right? This is where my orchestrators live, or my controllers live, right? And then to this cloud, I have two different circuits. I have an internet circuit, I call it internet, and then I have an MPLS circuit. And to these two circuits, from these two circuits, I have two remote sites. I have a remote site 01 and I have a headquarters, right? And to simplify this and not make it any more difficult than it could become, I've created two types of traffic, right? Behind remote site 1 and headquarters. And each type of traffic can be considered its own VRF. In this case, in the SD-WAN, Cisco SD-WAN world, we call it VPN. So you'll hear the word VPN interchangeably, right? It's VRF, same thing. Tenant, right? Same purpose, right? True separation of traffic, unless you write policies to allow one VPN to cross over and communicate with another, right? So in this case, I selected VoIP and user traffic, right? So these segments should never be able to communicate, right? There should be perfect segmentation, right? And the way this works, before we move on to before we end this video, you have to remember that there, in the Cisco world, you have three planes. You have your control plane, you have your management plane, and you have your data plane. This has not changed very much, right? Like I said, VPN 512 is your management plane, right? VPN 0, which is its own segment or VRF, right, is the control plane, and then you have your data plane, right? So there are multiple methods that can be, or options for your data plane, but what I'm using in this lab to communicate for intercommunication between my V edges and my V smart, right, is IPsec, right? I'm using IPsec, right? And then I'll show you guys how to configure the V edge to you know, how to onboard them to the vManage, and how to, you know, work the trust, right, and push configurations or routing configuration from the vSmart to the vEdges. The vSmart is in full control of um, routing route propagations, right? And also, just like a route reflector, if you're familiar with the concept of route reflector, and the ability to work to push policies. Okay, all right. Well, this will be the end of the video. Next video will show you how to initially configure the vManage. Generally, this starts from the CLI to generating the CSR, having it signed using the backups. I mean, the CA, the Certificate Authority, and so on. Let me change this name to. I'll change it, and so it'll be a CA. Why can't I? There it is. Yeah, CA. So, one thing to remember, you could use iOS as a CA, right? Because this CA right here is a, I think I haven't talked about that. It's a Catalyst 8000V, right? I used initially a iOS, one of these. It's an iOS V, this one. I've used this appliance before when I started the lab initially, and I've run into some issues with key exchange algorithm, right? Because I have a newer version of the controllers. They didn't like negotiating older security protocols. The iOS would have Diffie-Hellman Group 1 and 14, while the controllers are using something more advanced, right? And in order to, I've tried many ways, many things to make this work, right? To include modifying one of the SSH config file within the V shell. And I'll introduce you guys to the V shell, right? The V shell is basically a Linux shell, right? And what I found out that with the newer controllers, you can modify the V shell using a sudo super user, right? Because basically, in order for you to modify it, you need to open a tag case. Cisco had to provide you a token to do so. So it's not even worth it. So what I've done is I've replaced my iOS device with a 8000V, right? iOS XE device, right? That makes it much easier. Okay. Anyways, that'll be all. I will be posting a next video, and this will be covering how to provision the vManage, the controllers, and how to onboard the vEdges. Okay. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.